This video describes how to set up a SQL data source region in Forms Designer. A SQL data source allows you to pull data into your form from external form data files, typically Excel files, although Microsoft Access files can be used as well. This is a convenient option when you need to make regular updates because you only have to update the data in the Excel file instead of making changes to the form itself. It also allows you to pull data from a single place into multiple forms across your company. Before creating a SQL data source region, you'll need to make sure your form data file is formatted correctly. The SQL data source region in your form will pull data from your Microsoft Excel files based on the file name, the sheet name, and the column name. You should have all of these names defined before setting up your data source queries. If you change any of these names in your form data files, you will need to update your data source queries to match. Make sure your Excel sheet names in the column headers do not have leading or trailing white spaces. Sheet names cannot start with a number and cannot include any spaces. The names in your queries have to match exactly and will not work if extra spaces exist. Avoid special characters, since some characters interfere with queries. Something else to keep in mind when creating a data file is that if the first 5 cells in a column are numeric, those values will automatically be converted to numeric format and not allow any other types of values in your data source region. If some of the values in the column are not numeric, you will need to put at least one of them in the first 5 cells to avoid errors. While you are setting up your data source regions in Forms Designer on your PC, your form data files should be saved to the Documents or My Documents folder. You will then be able to access the data in Forms Designer's preview mode to test your SQL data source regions. Now that we have correctly formatted our data file, we are ready to create queries for the SQL data source regions in our form. Multiple form data files can be used in a form if you need to pull data from different Excel files, but you will need to define each one as a separate database. To define a database to use for your region, first create a data source region. On the Data Source tab, select SQL Database from the Data Source Type dropdown. Click on the Databases button to open the SQL Database Manager. Enter a name for the database. Leave Use a File Path and Uploaded Form Data selected from the dropdowns. Enter the file name, including the extension, into the field where it says Enter just the file name of an uploaded form data file. Click Apply. Select the name of your database from the list on the left-hand side. Click OK to close the SQL Database Manager window. Now that we've set up the data file as our database, we can write a query to get the data we want. A query uses syntax similar to simple SQL statements to retrieve data from the database you have defined for your region. Multiple queries can be defined and reused throughout your form. Click the Queries button in the Data Source tab to open the SQL Query Manager window. Enter a name for your query. We recommend using a name that reflects the type of data you are retrieving. This is useful if you have multiple queries or are using a query in multiple regions. Write your query in the command text field. See the Query Syntax Reference section in the SQL Data Source Region article for examples. Click Apply. Select the desired query from the left-hand list. Click OK to close the SQL Query Manager dialog box. We recommend that you use Preview mode to check that your SQL Datasource region is working as intended. Make sure the latest version of your form data file is saved to the Documents or My Documents folder on your PC so that your data can be accessed in Preview mode. Forms Designer will not be able to read the data file correctly if the file is open, so make sure you are not currently viewing the data file in another program when you enter Preview mode. Datasource regions can pull from a form data file using other region values as parameters. For example, a job title region could pull the job title from an Excel file based on the employee name picked in another Datasource region. Set up a query similar to the one in the previous step. This time we will add where the previous column name equals question mark to the end of the query. The question mark is a placeholder for the region that we will specify in the parameter field. This will be the region that our current query is dependent on. Type the name of the region you want to use as a parameter and click OK. Make sure to use this format contained in curly brackets when referencing a region. Now that we have created a form with working SQL Datasource regions, we are ready for the tablet users to start using the form. In order for your published form to access the form data file, you have to upload the file to the Form Data Files section of the portal for your company. Log in to the portal, navigate to the Admin menu, and select Form Data Files. Click on the Upload File button. Choose the file that you want to use as a form data file and click Upload. If you wish to limit the use of a form data file to the form templates and users that are associated with a particular folder, you have the ability to select a specific folder. Limiting a form data file to a folder will reduce the amount of resources that need to be updated during device syncing. However, this selection may need to be updated if you move a form template to a different folder. For more information on managing your form data files, see the article or video on form data files. For more information on using Forms Designer, visit the Forms Designer section of our Help Center at help.fieldtobase.com.